Alright, I'm gonna let you know right now, this is a rant. If you don't want to hear me talk about this, click off the video. And if you're just gonna tell me to buy a PC, click off the video. I don't need to hear either one of these comments. Let's just get into it. What is going on over at Xbox? Because the Xbox showcase just wrapped up, and although it wasn't terrible, we got news that this year's other big title is another 30 FPS game. And when I say it like that, I really want to drive home the point that it's 30 FPS, because although yes, you can make 30 frames very smooth, you can make it playable, you can make it to where someone will play at a 30 FPS and they won't even be able to tell the difference. You can do all of this stuff, but it's the fact, and I think this is what gamers, especially Xbox gamers that are out there defending this 30 frames right now, they're forgetting. This was the big title for this year. Not only that, this game now has to fill the void that Redfall left behind, which I'll remind you was also a big title for Xbox that also came out at 30 frames. Like, what happened to player choice? When we first went into the next generation, so many cross-gen titles gave us the option to run the game in performance mode or quality mode. And now it just seems like these games are launching with locked 30 frames 4K, especially in the case of Redfall, where you don't even necessarily need 4K. 4K does not, that game does not demand 4K textures on anything. But for some reason, they lock you in at that. And they don't even give you the choice, because I know most gamers, including myself, if the game has the option, if you cannot make it 4K 60, which a lot of these games on console are never going to hit, it's understandable. No one, I don't think anyone is asking for that. But if you can't hit that, let me get 1440 60 frames. Let me get my 1080p 60 frames. At least give me the option, because when you lock me in at 30, you're taking away all player choice. Now, in the particular case of Starfield, this game is very different, because this game is probably the biggest game we've ever seen in gaming, period. And unlike Redfall, they didn't release the game and then as soon as the game released said, hey, we're working on 60 frames. We just couldn't get it there by launch. This game didn't mention 60 frames at all when it comes to Starfield. Todd Howard doubled down by saying they locked it at 30 because they wanted the fidelity of the game to just be, you know, crisp. They didn't want anything to be lost. But you kind of contradict that point when I'm losing 30 frames that are just not there anymore. And I guess it's a perfect case of you didn't have it, so you never really lost it. But dude, like, again, I'm not gonna shit on Starfield because this game looks incredible. And I honestly think no way that you can get a game like this to run 60 at all times. Hell, probably not even close to 60 at all times. So in the case of Starfield, it's perfectly fine for it to be locked at 30. It's fine. But in the case of Redfall, which was the other big title for Xbox this year, it ran at 30 frames. An update just came out for Redfall today, and guess what they didn't fix? They didn't fix the frame rate because they're still working on the update. Almost like the game just should not have came out when it did. Ah man, and it just sucks because I have to tie it in with Starfield, because Redfall and Starfield are both Bethesda games. They're both coming out of the Bethesda studios that were acquired by Microsoft, and when it happened, we were promised all these big, like, just games that were gonna really define the next generation. And so far, Starfield is the only game that's looking like it's gonna do that, but it's doing it at 30 frames. Something that you could have got on your Xbox One if it could run Starfield. And I think that's the craziest part. I went out and bought a $500 console, and half of the shit that's been releasing for the last 3 years, I could have played on my VCR, dude. Think about that for a second. Think about that, because I've said it in multiple videos now. I'm really waiting to see these consoles pushed to their limits. And again, don't tell me to go buy a PC, because you can go and justify that for any game. Any game. And it's funny how people on the Sony side don't have to be told to go buy a PC, because their games, first party games, are just running at 60. They're shipping at 60. If they're not, they're coming with quality and performance modes. And it's like Xbox has just totally left that out. Now, I can't beat up on Xbox too bad, because the games that come from Xbox Game Studios, these are the in-house devs at Xbox, not Bethesda, not ZeniMax, none of that. They release games at 30, and they also release games at 60, but they give options. And most first-party AAA games they do release are 60 frames. So it's just, I don't know, man. I feel like we're at this point in gaming where we really shouldn't be seeing 30 frames on a game unless it is as massive as Starfield is going to be. Again, Starfield is a different case here, but you have to compare the two, because this was the big catalog games for Xbox this year. Redfall followed by Starfield. And you have to put the two in the same basket, because Redfall, I'm sorry, it didn't warrant anybody going out and paying even $300 for a Series S to play that game. And fortunately, after seeing footage of Starfield looks massive enough to where 30 frames makes sense. You put it in a setting in any of these worlds, because there's almost infinite amount of worlds that you can travel to in this game, and it's just so much shit going on. It makes sense for it to be 30, because if they tried to hit 60, you'd start to see a lot of weird shit, and that's fine, dude. But in the case of Redfall, dude, it just sucks, man. Like I said, Redfall came out with an update today. I think I'll be jumping into it and just checking out the update, seeing what it's actually doing. We're not here to talk about the update. I just wanted to come on here and really talk about 30 frames versus 60 frames. And it's not so much that I don't think games can hit 60 on the console. It's just that games are getting bigger, and that is perfectly fine. But if they're getting bigger, why are we shooting for 4K resolution at 30? Like, at some point, I feel like we can sacrifice some quality to make sure it gets 45 frames, 50 frames, 60 frames. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not a dev. I don't know enough about dev work to sit here and comment on it like that. But as a player, I know that when I bought a $500 system and I'm looking at the big titles that are supposed to be only for my system, and people's excuse online is, hey, if you don't like it, go buy a PC, that is a problem, because that's just not supposed to be the case. So anyways, like I said, Starfield looks great. This is a rant. Probably won't be a lot of you guys that actually watched it all the way to this point, but Starfield looks great. I'm not mad at 30 frames for Starfield, but I feel like if this is the route that we're going to be heading in, you need to be upfront about this shit before you start showing gameplay, before you start really showing the game off, before the game launches in a couple months. You have to start being upfront about this stuff, because you're gonna start burning gamers, Xbox, and you're not in the position to be burning any gamers right now. So learn from this shit. If Avowed is running at 30 or 60, state that shit now. If Fable is running at 30 or 60 in a couple months, state that shit now. Like, dude, you can't keep leaving your gamers in the dark, bro. And that's just what it is. So anyways, let me know what you guys think about it down in the comment section below. How do you feel about 30 frames versus 60 frames? And do you feel like if a game is only going to hit 30, does it really need to be 4K? Or do you feel like we can sacrifice some of that quality, make it closer to 60 frames or 60 frames, and you'll be okay with that? I feel like a lot of people were perfectly fine with performance mode and quality mode, and you just pick which one you preferred. Sometimes the game would run very well in quality mode, and I think that's what they're trying to kind of push with Starfield. You don't get the option in Starfield because they don't want you to see that performance mode, because they couldn't even get it running right. So you only get the quality mode. So it kind of makes sense. But in a game like Redfall, what quality am I seeing, bro? Like, I don't know, man. And I hate shitting on that game, but they still need to prove themselves, because again, these were the two big titles for Xbox this year. And look at where we're at now. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys in this video. I will be back soon because we have so many games to talk about. Summer Games Fest has been great so far. I'll make a whole nother video talking about that, but I've been going on entirely too long. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.